Maz of Triple C Creations. Hey, it's Maz here. Oh! The kids still having fun. Quad's still running. Yay! Anyways, now that machine's running, on to the next project. If you watched the last video, I might have given a little hint what we're probably going to start on next year. It's a bombing -1 up here, which is pretty hot up here for this time of the year. But anyways, I mentioned this old John Deere snow machine. You saw the orange hood of it. Got her opened up here. So what we got going on here is we made, let's see here, a homemade, if anybody's seen a John Deere Trailfire and the liquid fires, they did not have independent suspension, not stock. And they were silver gray, like they were like this. So I'll throw a picture in now of what it was factory, or what it's supposed to look like. My dad bought this one new, 79, it's an 80, 79 model. John Deere Trailfire 340, fan cooled. It's a quick machine in its day. We've actually had this thing up like 80 mile an hour plus in its day. Still moves along pretty good. So then years later, when I was a teenager, I bought this sled off my father, and then I rode it, and then it sat for 4 or 5 years. And then my kid, how old would he be then? It would have been about 12, 13. I let him have this sled, and we started working on it. He rode it for a year. I'll throw a couple pictures in there where first day he had it out, he was actually jumping the machine. And then the following year, we ripped it right down, and we started making a independent suspension, homemade for now. This is actually motorcycle rear shock absorber off of, I believe, a 500 Honda Shadow, mid-80s. Then what else do we have? We had, this is all homemade and everything is thing. So, but I tried something. It's got the coilover shocks on a swing arm, kind of like Polaris style. Polaris bought into John Deere 85, 86, I'm not 100% sure. It was early mid 80s when John Deere stopped making sleds, and then Polaris bought into it. So the old Polaris snow machines look and sound similar. A lot of parts are interchangeable. I left the leaf springs. They used to be way underneath here. So I moved out here, made the suspension, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna make a solid spring, like, or a solid ski like my old VMAX here, where there is no springs, it's just straight shock. So I thought, well, let's put the leaves on it, and then we'll try the coils. And if this is too ridiculous or doesn't handle where the, and it's too spring, anything, I'll take it off and I'll make it solid, and I'll make a frame or get different skis. But amazingly, this thing actually rides nice. When you push down on the suspension, I don't know if you can see it, the spring gives a little bit, and then the shock goes. So with normal riding, it's mostly leaf spring, and then when you hit jumps and everything like that, leaf spring goes about halfway down, and then the coil takes over. So it actually surprisingly rides pretty good, so I've left it. So anyways, my kid's been riding this thing on and off for the last, let's see, 13, 14, 15, he's almost 16, 3-4 years now, 4 years. So she had a few issues last year. She was having little issues. I found that the brake pad was wedged up in it. It was just like you're riding the brakes around, and sure enough, the brakes were dragging on the machine. So I got a new pads, put that in there. That seems working good. We're going to go through all the pulleys and everything. Pulleys, idlers. A lot of them need the bearings replaced. So we'll go through that so it rolls nicer. That is an independent God, I can't talk today. Rear track and suspension and jack shaft from early mid 90s Indy Indy Polaris 650 Triple. They are roughly the same length and same width as the John Deere. The only thing you have to do is you have to change the jack shaft, and I had to machine the jack shaft down to fit the Trailfire John Deere's chain case. Otherwise, a couple new holes bolted into the tunnel and she fits. So now we're fixing all this stuff and that, but we're having issues with these shocks. One's stiffening up, one's getting weak. It doesn't land and hit bumps good nice anymore. There's not a ton of travel in them. They're motorcycle shocks. They weren't meant for this. So we got a set of shocks that came off of an actual Ski-Doo I got from a friend and co-worker, and they're in good shape. But the only thing is, this is lightly mocked up, some junk bolts, and this is the issue and good thing and bad thing. Oh, here we go. So this is the shock we took off it. This is the shock we are trying. Do you see a slight difference? So that means that if you go look at this side, oh, my gear is gonna keep on. This side is sitting on the wheel dollies. The machine is sitting level right now. This side is not sitting on the dollies. So what's going on here now is the machine is 4 inches taller on the front. So if we use these shocks, it's 4 inches taller, which means the back end's gonna be 4 inches lower. So what do you do? Do you go get the right length of shocks? No. It's cooler to just lift the machine up. Let's drop this suspension 4 inches down and lift the front end 4 inches. Back end's gonna be 4 inches taller. The whole machine's gonna sit this height all the way across. So now this is my problem. I don't have enough tunnel to bolt the suspension in. So what we're gonna do is, figure where everything is now. Just give me a second. Okay, so I made a template, piece of cardboard, cut it out, and then I needed some metal. So I happen to have a piece of aluminum. So we're going to trace this out. We're going to cut 4 of these out. This piece of aluminum is an old street sign. So I'm going to cut this out, and then we're going to take this, bend this out of the aluminum, pull this in. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. And then we're going to take the aluminum and we're going to bend it and get this to sit straight and hold this right so that it's like this. You can see it. So we're going to do that out of aluminum. Make 4 of those. And then we're going to drill a hole here, down here, and then we're going to drill 2 holes through here so that this sits like this as aluminum, and then this is where the suspension is bolted in, but we need it to be 4 inches lower, so we will just make it 4 inches lower. So that's the idea. We're going to take that, machine it up a little bit, bolt her in, 4-inch lift kit. So let's get started on it and see where we end up. Yeah. So we got it going here, getting more back on the John Deere on the Trailfire and the sled. So we got the trackle undone, lifting it up so we can get more ground clearance. We'll go with the new front shock system. I said we'll make some brackets so we we got the cardboard template, and then we on this plating, got to cut some pieces out of it. An old aluminum street sign is actually what it is. So we got the first one pretty much made up. So that's the rough mock-up. We drill 2 holes there, 2 holes there, and then we're going to put possibly multiple holes right here. And the idea is we're going to take this. This is where the track used to be bolted to suspension. There and up front. And then this is going to... Let's see, we'll get this up here. Come on. So that's going to sit up like that. And that's going to be the brace. And that's going to bolt on to the suspension. It's going to bolt onto there. So now we just got to make 4 more of these and then try it out. So we're back in the shop right now. Working on the front suspension. We got 4-inch lift. And we got one side getting mocked up here, and knocked the bushings out here to put bigger bolts in, a bigger bushing. And let's see if we can get under here. We got the rear suspension pretty much dialed in. We're going to try it. So this is our 4-inch lift kit. This says here, blocks, aluminum, made from a street sign. That was our first mock-up hole, but it was not making this track sit flat on the ground. It was picking the front end up too much. So and it was making the suspension go over center on the back. So we ended up trying a little higher. I'm probably going to put some more adjuster bolt holes in here. So, but I don't know if this gets it. Where can I get this? Oh, here. This should give you an idea how high the sled is. Okay, when these sleds were new, the original suspension, you could usually see about 3/4 of that back wheel. So back wheel's about a 6-inch. So it was probably about 5 inches off the ground. So that's 5-inch. Then I put 650 Polaris track in it, which brought up a couple more inches. So now in total, it is almost a foot off the ground in the running board. Actually, almost over a foot there, but roughly a foot off the ground. And say we'll get rid of 5 inches. So that'd put, what is that? A foot off of that. That should put us around 4 to 5 inch lift kit. Well, it should be about 6 inches. Right? 5 to 6 inches taller than it was stock. And we'll get this front here, and we're going to make up these. We'll get these shocks on here. I do want to add a plate right here. I had a brace in the back here, or I do have a brace in the back here. This here is a frame I put inside. And where is it? Under here. That's where the original suspension and skis sat. So they sat in here. So they sat down here. Now I made her wider to like a more modern sled, because that was the biggest thing that was annoying. This machine was pretty steady, stable and everything. But when you go riding, and guys have been out in the trails and they've been wearing them down, or it's mild out and they make ruts and everything with the skis, this poor machine would sit there and drop from one ski to the other and just go from rock back and forth and back and forth. And it just kind of took the fun out of it. And it was good in the powder, but trail riding was not good. And when it's called a Trailfire, you'd think it'd be trail ready. But I put this brace in here, but over time, jumping and everything, this did bend in. I pulled this back out. It was starting to bow in towards the hood. So I think I'm going to lay another strap from here down to here. And there'd be a little bit of a gap here. See if we can stiffen this up a little bit more. Had a little bit too much flex for what I like. And we'll get these shocks mounted, and we'll get it hooked up here, and then I gotta fix the one steering rod, and then we'll fire it up and we'll take it for a rip. We got a little bit of powder since last night, so it's still snowing, but enough here to go for a rip before the snow disappears. So let's get right back at her. So I got the rear suspension all hooked up, so it seems to be working not too bad. Now I'm trying to get the front here. I got the front shocks on. They're all mounted. We'll have to come up with a few little spacers and stuff, but otherwise it's intact. So I'll get the hood down here. So that's my dilemma now. She's a lot higher, and how am I going to explain this? Okay, so this ski used to come up right there, and same thing on this side through that hole. And I punched out a big hole here and made a rod. Go from that steering rod to come all the way over to pop through here. That was connected into there, and it came out to here. And now we're a lot lower. And we've always had this issue of this big opening and snow getting in there, and I had a makeshift boot in there to keep the snow out and stuff. But it always kind of messed with the steering. Never turned as sharp one way as it did the other way. And when the suspension went up, the steering would go one way and then go down the other way and back and forth. But that's not really my dilemma. Rode not bad that way. But now, I thought I was just going to hook the steering rod up and go for a rip of this thing and see how it worked. And I might lower the front a little bit. I'm not sure yet. But that's not my dilemma. This is the steering rod. I just shortened it because the suspension left up and it brought the skis in a little bit. But I got this. This control arm keeps the suspension in place. This one, right up front, it sits so low, and it's gonna get smoked by hard snow, whatever, and it's gonna bend. It's gonna get hit so many times. Now the belly pan is way up here. So now I think I'm gonna scrap this rod, and what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna take this kind of rod. Let's see if I can prop it up. If this makes any sense. I'm going to hook it up here, have it there, and have two of these rods, one on the other side, back and forth. And then right here, we're going to make a pivot. I'll punch a hole through here, make a pivot, and make it connect to this steering rod. So there'll be a hole straight right in the middle here, right up front here. So now I need a pivot point. Well, I have a few old John Deere parts, some damaged ones. This used to be a steering post. This goes under the engine. So, cut this one down a little bit. And I'm thinking of putting this straight through the middle so that this punches up through there, and that'll be the new steering rod. That's my idea here. So let's start punching holes here. Oh, we're back on the John Deere, the Trailfire, the lift kit. Messing with the steering right now. So we got most of this in here now. Let's see if we can get some light on it. There we go. So now the steering's down here and don't have that big long bar in the front anymore. Should make it turn sharper. Just run an aluminum rod inside the heavy steel rod. It goes down to adjustment link there, Put a bolt through here. I'm gonna put another one in here. It goes all about this far in. Got another bolt right here. That just slides right in. Bolt that up. Do the same thing on that side. We got everything pretty squared up. We got adjustment on it all. So then the next thing is in here. The shaft's right here. That twists underneath, makes it crank back and forth. And this, need a little pin that goes down there. Tighten that down, and then the steering will crank back and forth, right? So I know I can tighten this up and it'll probably turn. But guaranteed this is going to move because there's not enough grip here. Just welded a bolt inside the pipe. So we're going to take, where is it? A nut. That thread's on there. Alright, take it right to the bottom. And then we're going to take, what we got here? Oop. An old junky impact socket. These are kind of a cheap whatever. They mushroom and everything, so they're not very good sockets. But I still had a few of them. So this one fits on that socket. So the idea is, I'm going to cut this nut in half. Then I'm going to weld that nut down to there, so it stays on there permanently. Put this socket over top, cut a little bit off, the same thickness, weld the socket to the back of this. And that way, it can't spin. You just snug it down and we're all good. And then when I want, I can unbolt it, slide that off, and then that can come down if we ever need to service it, ever do something with it. So let's go cut this socket and this nut in half. Okay, get the socket here. Put this the same thickness as this. Feels like my kid and his friend are out there ripping around in the quad in the snow with a bike. His friend just got another bike. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this nut in half, move this down, cut the end of that socket off, so now that fits over top of that. Now they're both the same thickness. There we go. So now the idea is we'll put this on it, on that steering shaft. Theoretically, this should work. I'll try to weld underneath the edge here. Get this welded on all the way around so it stays solid and it can't come off again. And we'll take this, and that fits on top of that. Now it can't turn. So the idea is we'll take this and I'm going to weld that on the underside of that. So now, let's see here, that piece will be welded on there, slip down in there, and done. And you just have to tighten it down and that's it. And it should say, we just got to make sure we got it centered where we want it, weld it down, and that should be it there. And finish underneath, and tighten that up, weld that up, and then we end up going underneath. Pinch all this up underneath, So now it's looking a lot cleaner and not so hanging down so bad like it was before. And then yeah, I'll just try adjusting that up. And that should be about it. Then we might able actually to adjust my track, and then maybe we can get this thing fired up. Maybe we'll take it for a rip. See how this goes. I don't know how much higher I want to get on this sled. Anyways, we'll keep going at this and see where we end up. Oh, she's still smoking. So I just welded in. I'll clean up that weld. I'm just getting it into place. That's the socket. End cut off. And then I cut a nut in half, welded that down. We'll put another bead around it. And then we should be good. That would have been from... Just took a socket the same size. And then cut the end off of it and welded it onto there. That should keep that from slipping and spinning around, and I shouldn't have to tighten the snot out of it either. Well, I don't know. This is day 3, day 4, day 5. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyways, another night for the John Deere Trailfire. I'm gonna start nicknaming this thing the Mountain Fire or something. Anyways, got it pretty much done. The suspension lift and everything, and the steering's finished. I just got some bits and pieces here to touch up, do a little painting later on. So what we got going is we got that nut and everything and socket all welded in there. So now it all steers. Here, I'll throw the dollies on it. That'll make more sense. Okay, I put the wheelie dollies on it here so it's a little easier to turn. So the steering is underneath the engine from factory. Comes over to here, flips over to there, pivots in that thing. So now that goes with the bars. And it makes the steering work on both sides. So the gist of it is we got steering here and here. Let's see if we can. Oops. Oh, come on. So the steering from there to there, all meets in the middle. So that's the gist of it there. Okay. So now sealed up temporarily the holes that I had for the steering on the side here, just to keep the snow out for now. Some belting temporarily, just tied it in. Later on I'll get some nice plastic molding. I might have another one of these from another John Deere. I'll have to look and we can clean this up nice. So what do we got going on here now? The track's tightened up. I had to change something here because the track's got such a sharp, it's getting close up to here. So there used to be bogey wheels here, and there was another set of bogey wheels here. This bar used to be up here. Ugh. And this was for the limiter straps that go from up there, which are tied up now, and went down to here. And then I always dealt with the sleds. It keeps the front end from going too far. I could still put the straps on. So I took the wheels from there, put them to here to keep this track down off the edge. We'll have to try it. If not, we'll have to put bigger wheels on it or angle this a little different, put the limiter straps on, but we'll try it now, just see what it does. And then put that bar back. Everything's the same width, so it's all interchangeable. And if this is an issue at all, we can put another set of wheels there. So yeah, there's our spacers, the aluminum, which work good on the aluminum top. And Yeah, put another grab bar in the back here, because the other one was all messed up. And we got full suspension here. So I know I should wait till morning because I wanted to touch up a few things and paint some stuff and do some adjustments. I still got to line up the steering and everything. So except for sitting on the stands, that's pretty much the height it's going to sit now. It roughly works out to a foot off the ground on the running board. I think that's like, I think these sleds have maybe, I don't know, 3-4 inches off the ground on the back end. They're usually covered. So now we've gone from there to here now. So, let's go for a rip if she'll fire up. So, yeah, we're going for a rip if it starts. It hasn't really grind since last winter. Oh, I got it. It's cold out there. Well, it ran not too bad. I can hear a little bit of dragging on the track, so something's got to be adjusted there. I'll have to take a look at that. So, yeah, we're gonna end up going over this thing. I'll thaw this thing out, and tomorrow we'll get back on her. But otherwise, that's the Jiffit. The steering's working pretty decent. So tweak it here and there. We'll give it a little paint here and there, and I might lower the front. I think the front's a little too high. We'll see here. But otherwise, it's working not too bad. So, yeah, that's about it. And, okay, so, I had to do a little test drive. I had to readjust the suspension a little bit. I had to move some parts ahead and change the angle here a little bit. So, tweak the front shocks. So we're going to take it for another rip, see if it made any difference, if it's improved, and let's see what happens. We'll go for a rip here and see what. Hopefully it holds together. Oh, I went for a good rip with this thing. You know what? It's not bad. A little adjustment on the shocks. I snug the track up a little bit. Good hard jump. I can hear the track skip a little bit. I might have to readjust the track track limiter straps on the front and bring it up just a little bit more. But oh, where we go. It's all a fun little machine. Goes like a bugger when it wants to. Yeah, so I think that's just about it for it here. This machine's had quite the history. This was my father's machine. She was silver and gray. He basically bought it new. And then I guess I was maybe 18, 19. I bought the sled off my father. They've been not running or sitting for a little while. Still ran okay. Cleaned it up. I rode it for years. And then it sat 4, 5 years to the point that even the throttle cable was stuck. And just give me a sec here. And yet I went over to it and I put some gas in it and started up. You couldn't even rev it up because the throttle was stuck. And then I got it going and I gave it to my son. And he was been 13, I think, 12, 13. And he rode it for about a year, one winter. Well, I rode with him with the other machine, old VMAX here. Needs a little cleanup and stuff, and a few odds and ends. Then the next winter, as a kind of a Christmas present, so like that, took her all apart, redid the tunnel, took a track and spring suspension, everything out of a 650 Indy Trail in mid-80s Polaris. Painted up the hood, painted up the tunnel, switched up to a gauge package that this machine never had, and then made independent suspension. And originally I was going to go with the shocks. I had the old, these shocks is what I've used the mock-up with. They're just shocks off the back of an old Honda street bike. So obviously they're a lot shorter. Made these drag bars, all this stuff on that, and you've seen how the steering was before. But I gotta admit one thing. I was just gonna put coils and put solid skis on like the old VMAX there, and just solid. But then this thing has the factory leaf springs, and honestly, when this thing goes down, I took it for it. I thought, you know what, I'm going to try it with a leaf spring. And if it's stupid bouncy and ridiculous and doesn't work with a whatever, then we'll take them off. We'll make solid skis or buy new skis, whatever for it. Not a biggie. But you know what? I'm surprised. It rides nice. On that, you take the jumps. That shock takes over. When you're riding nice across the field, these just go up and down a little bit. And it's as smooth as this sled has ever ridden. And now with these shocks, it even handles better now. Not so back and forth now like it was with these shocks. But honestly, I like this setup. I would do it again on another old sled, definitely. Maybe get fancier and have some fancy shock here or something like that. A little fancier than this. It's probably worn out anyways. But otherwise, I like it. So it's worked out pretty good. So that's about it. When the kid gets back after his weekend, if we get any snow, I'm going to clean up this one here real quick there, and just a couple odds and ends, and she's ready to go. And we're going to go for a rip of this thing. See if we can go... See if we can find some powder and see if we can make this thing actually carve a little bit. And yeah, so this is Maz at Triple C Creations. And yeah, subscribe. It'll help me keep these videos going. Hit the bell icon below if you're new to the channel. We'll give you so you know when I do my next upload. And yeah, that's about it. This is Maz. Bye.